In moments when life feels like it's unraveling, it can seem as if a crushing weight settles on both your body and your soul. Perhaps you felt overwhelmed, burdened by a persistent sense of exhaustion, or haunted by worries that never cease. Maybe your heart is heavy with a pain that appears to stretch on forever, making your everyday struggles feel insurmountable. Yet, throughout centuries and across countless challenges, one timeless truth has remained: hope endures. Today we're going to explore a powerful passage, Psalm 30, that speaks directly to people facing storms, disappointments, and life-altering obstacles. It's been called a psalm of renewal, a song passed down through generations. And it holds a promise of transformation that can breathe new life into any season of despair. Many have testified that when the message of this psalm truly takes root, it becomes much more than poetic text. It's an invitation to step away from suffocating fears and crushing uncertainties. It's a reminder that no storm lasts forever, and that a glimmer of light will always guide you when you place your trust in what is higher and everlasting. Today, we'll dive into the heart of Psalm 30, discovering how its message can be applied to your life right now. But first, reflect on this. Have you ever felt like you were completely lost, with no clear direction forward? If so, this message is specifically for you. Because no matter how intense your night of sorrow has been, joy still rises with every dawn. That state of anguish this very moment, discouraged, weary, or struggling to see a way out. There's a universal question that weighs upon us all in times of crisis. What can truly keep a person standing when fear and uncertainty seem to define every waking moment? The answer, for generations, has often been found in a single word: faith. Faith transcends religious labels or denominational lines. It's the quiet assurance that there is a purpose, a presence, and a direction, even when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. This is the thread that connects you to an unshakable hope. History has showcased the radical power of faith time and again. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a landmark speech that ignited hope for millions, famously declaring that with faith, even the greatest national discords could be transformed into a symphony of brotherhood. That conviction echoed across the globe, inspiring people to believe in a better future. Beyond historical moments, modern science also confirms the resilience that faith can offer. A study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association noted that those who engage in prayer or meditative practices often report reduced stress, improved emotional health, and a stronger sense of purpose. So as you listen to the promise of Psalm 30, let these findings remind you that faith not only soothes our hearts, but also emboldens us to keep going when logic says there's no way forward. It comes alive when we understand the context in which it was written. Tradition holds that David penned these words after a season of hardship, possibly riddled with conflict and uncertainty. Rather than emerging from a moment of wealth or stability, this psalm rose from adversity. That's precisely why it resonates so powerfully with the human spirit. It reminds us that yes, we will face long nights. Yes, there will be times when tears overwhelm us. But there's a promise woven into its verses: joy dawns with the morning. That was true for David, and it can be true for us, no matter what we've lost, no matter where we've wandered. In modern times, there are many real-world parallels to the resilience depicted in Psalm 30. For instance, after Hurricane Katrina devastated parts of the United States in 2005, communities came together to rebuild from the rubble. People lost homes, livelihoods, and even loved ones. Yet an unbroken thread of hope remained. Survivors have shared that it was their unyielding trust, often tied to faith in God, that gave them the courage to rise again. Psalm 30 speaks of a God who rescues, who doesn't abandon, and who offers restoration at the appointed time. That is precisely why your story doesn't have to end in suffering or defeat. Your morning can be filled with renewed hope, Let me ask you, is there an area in your life where you've been praying for a fresh start? Is there a wound or a loss that feels irreparable? Take heart in the realization that you are not alone, and transformation may be closer than you think. Only integral theme of Psalm 30, gratitude also stands at the heart of its message. Gratitude is more than a fleeting emotion or a seasonal trend. It is a spiritual discipline capable of radically altering how we perceive ourselves, others, and the future. Multiple psychological studies have examined the effects of practicing daily gratitude. In one prominent study by psychologist Robert Emmons, participants who wrote down just 3 things they were grateful for each day experienced a notable improvement in mood and a heightened sense of resilience. But how does gratitude tie into this ancient psalm? The text reminds us that God can turn our mourning into dancing, and that expression of praise emerges precisely because the psalmist recognizes what has already been done. When David sings, "You have turned my wailing into dancing, you removed my sackcloth and clothed me with joy," he is celebrating renewal while also acknowledging the adversity he faced. He recognizes not just a future rescue, but the ways God had already intervened. This posture of gratitude shifts our perspective, shedding light on blessings that we might otherwise overlook. It also fuels praise, a deep, soul-level acknowledgement that someone greater is worthy of honor, regardless of our current circumstances. Wherever you are right now, consider pausing to recall 3 things you are grateful for. It might be as simple as having a warm meal, a safe place to rest, or a supportive friend. By setting aside time to identify these gifts, you might discover that your outlook subtly begins to change. The heaviness that once seemed immovable starts to lift, replaced by a lighter, more hopeful perspective. On faith and gratitude, both of which pave the way for praise. But what exactly is praise, and how does it transform our situation? Some might assume praise is just about singing songs or reciting words. In truth, it's far more profound. Genuine praise emerges from a heart that recognizes goodness and grace beyond the visible. It's an act of trust that declares, "I will uplift hope and truth, even when I don't see the outcome yet." Throughout the Bible, we see that praise is often a precursor to breakthrough. Look no further than the story of Paul and Silas in the book of Acts. Arrested, confined to a dark, cold cell, they chose to worship in the middle of the night. As they did, an earthquake rocked the prison, flinging open the doors and breaking chains. Whether or not you interpret that story literally, it conveys a powerful principle. Praising in the face of adversity unlocks strength we might never discover through complaint or bitterness. Modern science has even begun to document how singing or listening to uplifting music can lower stress hormones and stabilize heart rate. When we wrap our praise in spiritual significance, it's no wonder so many people find liberation in the simple act of turning their burdens over to the divine. If you find yourself stuck in a place of despair, try transitioning your energy toward words and melodies that affirm healing, redemption, and new possibilities. Not only might you see changes in your outer world, you may feel your inner world begin to shift from darkness to light, from restlessness to peace. Messages in Psalm 30 is the assurance that sorrow, no matter how prolonged, is not permanent. The text declares that while weeping may remain for a night, joy arrives with the dawn. This is a recurring theme across many spiritual traditions, the knowledge that every hardship contains within it the seed of transformation. Our darkest valleys often become the training ground for our greatest victories. History is replete with examples of individuals and communities that have endured extreme suffering, yet emerged stronger and more compassionate. Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, wrote extensively about finding meaning in suffering. Through the unspeakable cruelty he witnessed, he discovered that our response to adversity defines who we become. It's not the suffering itself that molds us, but the stance we adopt in the face of it. Psalm 30 reminds us that God stands with those who hold on to hope, even if that hope appears threadbare. The morning always comes after the night, and every chapter of suffering will eventually make way for a renewed outlook. You might be asking, so how does one endure until that morning finally breaks? Often it's a combination of prayer, community support, personal reflection, and the deliberate habit of keeping our eyes on what is still possible. If you're someone who feels on the brink of giving up, consider leaning into prayer, not as a last resort, but as your ongoing link to the One who sees beyond every limitation. Don't forget the power of community as well. Faith is often sparked and revived when we share our burdens with those who can remind us of the dawn to come. Let's look at prayer more closely. Prayer can sometimes be misconstrued as a formal recital, full of memorized phrases. But Psalm 30 and countless other passages of Scripture show us that prayer is often raw, real, and deeply personal. David's prayers weren't scripted. They were heartfelt outpourings of his fears, joys, failures, and hopes. When you pray, it's not about impressing anyone. It's about connecting authentically with your Creator. What does that connection actually achieve? First, prayer anchors us. When everything around you feels chaotic, prayer centers your heart. Second, prayer communicates that you believe in something bigger than the present circumstance. It calls out to a force that is both loving and capable. Third, research consistently finds that regular prayer or meditation helps reduce anxiety, lowers stress, and increases a sense of belonging. Yet the most transformative aspect is spiritual. A genuine belief that you're conversing with God changes how you see yourself and your problems. You begin to sense a partnership in your circumstances, believing there's a divine plan unfolding. Even if you don't see immediate results, you'll likely notice a shift within you. Faith gets stronger, the sense of isolation diminishes, and you feel more open to receiving peace. If you're new to prayer, start simply. Speak in your own words, share your heart, and trust that you're heard. If you're already someone who prays regularly, Psalm 30 can serve as a powerful reading to fuel your prayers, reminding you that God turns mourning into joyful dance, and that no season of heartache is everlasting. Gratitude, praise, and prayer, it's time to consider restoration and purpose, two key threads woven throughout Psalm 30. The concept of restoration implies that what was lost can be regained, and not merely returned to its previous state, but often multiplied or enriched by deeper meaning. Throughout the Bible and in countless personal testimonies, we find that God specializes in taking broken pieces and crafting something new, sometimes even more beautiful than before. Consider the story of Job, who lost virtually everything: family, wealth, health, and reputation. Through immense suffering, Job clung to his faith, and in the end, his fortunes were restored beyond measure. The principle is this: when you remain steadfast, refusing to let despair define your identity, you open yourself to divine replenishment. The same principle emerges in everyday stories, like a single mother who battles financial struggles for years, only to later discover that her perseverance has shaped her into a person who can inspire others facing similar hardships. So why does restoration matter? Because often, the restoration itself ushers us into our greater purpose. Moses floundered in exile for decades before returning to lead an entire nation to freedom. The path of pain prepared him to become one of the most influential leaders in history. If you're currently walking through your own wilderness, consider that your struggles might be refining you for something far bigger than you can currently envision. Whatever you have endured, whether heartbreak, loss, or betrayal, could ultimately become the very fuel that drives you toward your destiny. He repeatedly points to the promise that suffering has an expiration date. "You turned my mourning into dancing," the psalmist writes, emphasizing the swift and miraculous shift from darkness to light. This transformation can happen in ways big and small. For some people, it comes through a sudden turnaround, an unexpected opportunity that changes everything. For others, it arrives more quietly, like the steady dawn that gradually brightens the sky. Either way, the guarantee is that morning does come. If you're resonating with this message, now is a perfect time to put it into action. Pause this video for a moment, or save your place, then come right back and identify one burden you're carrying. It could be a financial worry, a conflict in a relationship, or a haunting regret about the past. Write that concern in a journal or post it in the comments as a symbolic act of release. I surrender my anxieties and embrace the hope of Psalm 30. This small step can be incredibly freeing. You'll find that the very act of naming your burdens and committing them to prayer or a supportive community can spark a shift inside you. Remember, though, that hope does not magically erase problems. Instead, it fuels the perseverance needed to face them. This psalm is not an escape route from reality, but a blueprint for walking through the valley with your head held high. As you remain open to the belief that God is orchestrating your healing, you may soon realize your perspective is changing. You start to see new possibilities, meet the right people, or discover resources that were previously hidden in plain sight. Delve deeply into the heart of Psalm 30, weaving together themes of faith, gratitude, praise, prayer, restoration, and the inevitable dawn that follows even the darkest night. Our journey has revealed a core truth. No struggle is pointless, no trial is endless, and nothing is beyond the realm of restoration. Real-life narratives, past and present, consistently confirm that storms pass, hearts mend, and joy finds its way back to those who refuse to give up hope. If this resonates with you on a personal level, make the decision today to trust that your night will not last forever. Find practical ways to keep this perspective alive. Set aside a few minutes each morning to read Psalm 30. Journal about the blessings you notice each day, or share your struggles with a trusted friend or community that can support you in prayer. Strength is found not in never falling, but in rising repeatedly. And if you haven't already, I invite you to join this community by subscribing to the channel and letting us know in the comments what part of this message struck you the most. Share this video with a friend who may need a reminder that sorrow is temporary and that joy is on the horizon. Your engagement through likes, comments, and subscriptions enables us to continue creating content that inspires faith, promotes healing, and spreads hope to countless others around the world. As you click to the next video suggested on your screen, remember that no matter how long the night feels, there is a promise woven into the fabric of your existence. A new dawn will always come. May this truth resonate in every corner of your heart, reminding you that, with God, every setback can become a stepping stone, and every sorrow can give way to genuine, lasting joy. Thank you for spending these moments with me, and may you walk forward with renewed strength and unshakable peace.